So rare, I think you could say it's truly unique. I mean, first of all, it's the scale. 50,000 square meters of building on the most incredible site, stunning site, as we've heard, 40 hectares. 35% of that building mass for culture, 17 buildings, for the visual arts, music, performance, and popular culture, and linked to a great city and an extraordinary political initiative. If you take the scale, it's really a city in microcosm, because it has all the ingredients and the quantity to create a new quarter of Hong Kong, physically attached, growing out of the body of the existing city, and linked by new gateways. There are 7 gateways. I give you one example, the one that goes and connects to CQ, the Chinese opera. That gateway is the new station, the high-speed station that connects with China. So that has the potential to bring 77 million within 1 hour travel distance of this center, of this new destination. Venice, by comparison, is 27 million. So, given this incredible opportunity, where do we start? We made 5 moves. The first move was really informed by our knowledge of cultural buildings and that of our advisors. And that was the potential to increase the educational spaces from 2% of the brief up to 5%. And that then delivers 40% of culture and related education. And one could go endlessly through statistics from other cities which confirm the economic benefit from creative industries. And education is an integral part of that. The second move is really from our knowledge of Hong Kong over more than 30 years and worldwide experience on cultural buildings. First of all, to avoid the problems of cultural ghettos, or indeed monoculture ghettos of any kind. So that really led us to create one integrated extension of the city, a new quarter with its own identity, but modelled on the familiar DNA of Hong Kong, a very flexible blueprint, an extension of the city grid. For example, it would have one main avenue, and that would be informed by the kind of dimensions of Nathan Road or Shanghai Street, some 20 meters. And then off that, a familiar pattern of cross streets, some 20 of them. And those informed again by the DNA of those familiar pedestrian narrow streets, full of energy, full of life, Lan Kwai Fong, Temple, Gough Street, Elgin Street, a typical example. But vitally, within that very flexible grid, very important, we would encourage cross-fertilization. Shoulder to shoulder, the visual arts against the performing arts, against education, against the non-cultural elements, the markets, the shops, the galleries, the studios, the offices, the restaurants, all the vital ingredients, the rich mix, which brings to life the traditional city. Those 17 cultural buildings, ranging in size from audiences of 2,000 to as small as 100, many of those would be embedded in the fabric. Others would be freestanding. They would be the kind of jewels, the opportunities, the architectural competitions that we've heard about already. You can only plan so far. Wonderfully, I think it's very important to encourage spontaneity, to have the opposite of the order. The equivalent here, if you like, of the laundry, which was not planned, but coexists wonderfully with the planned laundry. Lofts, for example, could be available with low rental to encourage that mixture, that chance element of craftsmen, artists, studios. Signage, there should be zones where really all hell can break loose in terms of signage. It's a very, very, a symbol of the energy, the chaos against the order, the randomness. So far, I've painted a picture of building on success, what we know works in Hong Kong and what we all love about it. But at the scale of this opportunity, we can also address issues which are almost impossible to kind of retrofit in an existing city. So we can tackle traffic congestion, pollution, which plagues Hong Kong like so many other cities, because the scale of the opportunity enables us to go below ground, to create a world below the pavement where we can have 3 levels. Sometimes that would be 3 levels of parking for 2,800 cars. Sometimes it would be the service road under the main route, which would siphon off the heavy traffic. And then the fumes from that would be filtered. It also gives us the opportunity to be able to service directly at the stage level by delivery. So again, it's a synergy between the inner workings of these cultural buildings and the infrastructure. But pollution is not just chemical pollution. There's also the issue of noise pollution. And that's why, away from this main quarter, this urban quarter, we consciously move and combine together the venue, which brings together audiences of some 15,000. We place that over the exhibition space, and because there are common services and the optimum hours of use are complementary, they rarely overlap. And those are served by buses and the MTR in the Element Shopping Centre. Then we can create a noise buffer from the West Harbour Crossing, that great tunnel opening. And that buffer would contain a hotel. It would also contain an energy centre. And I'll come to that shortly. These moves together make possible the creation of a great park, some 23 hectares, not just a setting for the jewels to come, but a slice of the countryside with the indigenous trees, the Chinese banyan, the big leaf fig, the camphor trees, and all that encircled by some 2 kilometres of waterfront track, bounded by water as a site, as a park, and not just by buildings, with the opportunity for public art, for pavilions, and special interest areas. Last, but really important, to design this infrastructure, because it is an infrastructure, it's a master plan. It is the opportunity to create a zero waste, zero carbon community, and that is achievable within the budget. We know that from our work on Masdar in the Abu Dhabi desert, and that opens, interestingly, this year. And there are very similar parallels between Masdar, Venice, and West Kowloon. They have very similar densities. Interestingly, the route around this development is probably in walking distance about the same as from here to the start of the Grand Canal. The moves in terms of the ecology and reducing the carbon footprint and creating a carbon neutral. The first move are 5,000 trees. They devour something like 1,350 tons of CO2. Then the north-south orientation of those small streets that I mentioned pulls the prevailing winds through and creates a cooling breeze. Not just the orientation, but very important, shade. I mean, we've noticed that here today, the difference when the sun was out as we moved from under that canopy into the open sunlight. And the potential to achieve a drop of some 8 degrees, from 32 degrees by shaded colonnades within the buildings to 24 degrees. Solar cells, many of these aspects in terms of working with nature, of course, were the roots of Feng Shui. It was very much about the benign siting of buildings. And then recycling water, all the grey water from baths, from sinks, rainwater to irrigate the park. Waste incineration, a very, very important element in the energy centre, to be able to burn the waste to create energy. Seawater cooling from the harbour, organic waste into fertiliser, and not moving earth from the site. So those are some of the headlines. Finally, why am I so optimistic about this project? I believe it's an opportunity to grow the community, to grow the city from within through education in terms of the arts, I've seen the problems of buildings being designed before the users for cultural buildings, and I've seen the mismatch between when the users are finally on board with a design that has been frozen. And here, wonderfully, the buildings have not even been talked about yet. And so there is the opportunity with the management, with the user now in place, to be able to achieve a very, very good fit between those buildings of the future into this master plan. Very, very significant difference. So flexibility, vitally important. From pressing the button, the go button, we could have the park, most of it in place within 18 months. And of course the buildings will evolve over the next decade, apart from M+, which runs on for another 20 years or so. So I think it becomes a great magnet, a social magnet, locally, internationally. I think it's thinking globally and acting locally. Thank you.